Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Coast Fridays with Friends. For those of you who are with us for the first time, welcome. And those of you who've been with us in the past, I hope you're enjoying them. My name is Patrice Paldino. I am the Executive Director for Coast to Coast Legal Aid. I want to put out a special thank you to Eddie Brandt, our pro bono coordinator, who recently graduated law school and will be sworn into the Florida bar on Monday, and unfortunately will be leaving us for his first position as an attorney. We're so proud of him. We're so grateful to him. He's been absolutely fantastic in putting these Friday events together and so many other things. We're sorry to see him go, but we certainly wish him the best. I want to welcome you today and introduce you to a good friend of mine and a good friend of Coast to Coast, Jennifer Harley. She is the Director of Systems Reform at Disability Rights Florida, and she's here to talk to us a little bit about what they do. So good morning, Jennifer.
Good morning, Patrice. Thank you for having me, and congratulations to Eddie Brandt. I'm glad to be able to share this good news with him.
We are too. We're really sorry to see him go. So maybe, Jennifer, you could tell us a little bit about the Organization of Disability Rights Florida.
All right, great. I'd like to begin with thanking you for inviting me. We always appreciate the opportunity to collaborate with our partners and to share our story and to share our mission and potentially reach new clients. So I work for Disability Rights Florida. It's a statewide organization. We provide free, confidential, legal, and advocacy services. Disability Rights Florida is the designated protection and advocacy agency for persons with disabilities. Disability Rights Florida, as the protection and advocacy agency, is authorized to pursue legal, administrative, and other appropriate remedies to ensure the protection and advocacy for the rights of individuals with disabilities. Disability Rights Florida maintains this authority and funding across 9 federal grants. And we provide a range of intervention strategies and supports to individuals with disabilities.
Are those limited to people with physical disabilities, or does it include other types?
All types of disabilities.
So what types of issues do you see routinely?
Well, generally, the agency, overall, the agency, we look at disputes involving Medicaid eligibility, including protected Medicaid, home and community-based service waivers, discrimination in housing, architectural barriers, service animals, transportation, and access to public and private programs and services. We investigate abuse, neglect, and rights violations in institutions, prisons, and jails. We also provide services through our advocacy, education, and outreach program, and address barriers to free and appropriate education. We provide access to mental health and support services that provide individualized treatment, including adults and students with psychiatric disabilities. We also provide services related to discrimination of employment, rights to effective and accessible communication like the American Sign Language and accessible print and electronic information. We provide access to services that will enable veterans with service-related injuries to a successful transition to civilian life. Through our representative payee program, we investigate stolen or misused funds or exploitation or neglect of people's Social Security income. We provide services related to voting registration, vote casting, and accessible polling places, and supportive decision-making such as alternatives to guardianship. So generally that's what our agency provides assistance with.
So you're not very busy these days, huh?
Not at all, not at all.
So your title is interesting, Director of Systems Reform. What exactly does that involve?
Well, primarily in my unit, on the systems reform team, we provide technical and legal assistance at representations for fair hearing requests that are related to the termination or reduction of healthcare and related medical services. And but generally the overarching mission of the organization is to protect and advocate for individuals with disabilities throughout the state of Florida.
And so I think right now what's important for people who are watching are obviously the impacts of the pandemic, the COVID pandemic. Is your office doing anything specific for people now that are suffering?
Yes, we have a COVID response. You can go onto our website, which is www.disabilityrightsflorida.org. We have an emergency management group that meets weekly via conferencing with managers and directors. And it provides time for team directors and agency personnel to update one another and collaborate on our response plan. The Disability Rights COVID response plan includes cross-team work groups for COVID-19 responses. We're focusing on voting accessibility, housing, nursing home and long-term care facilities. We're watching group homes, access to community-based services, transportation issues, ASL issues, institutions, prisons and jails, and COVID testing and healthcare rationing. And most of our staff, we're throughout the state. Most of our staff is working from home. We have some staff going in on a rotating basis, primarily into the Tallahassee office. Our intake is done through a centralized location in Tallahassee online, which that number is, it's posted in the chat, but the number is 1-800-342-0823. You can also fill out an online application on our website, which is www.disabilityrightsflorida.org.
I think we're going to have Eddie add that information for people so they can find it on Facebook. We really appreciate that. So clients who are interested in your services can apply online. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, they can apply online or through the 800 number. And then we have the TDD services as well.
I'm sorry, what type of services?
The telecommunication device for the deaf, the TDD services as well.
Thank you.
But you can complete, you can call our 1-800 intake line, or you can go through our website and complete an application online too.
How many, are your numbers increasing now during the pandemic?
You know, I'm not sure. I believe our numbers have stayed about the same.
What's important for people to know right now while we're going through this?
Well, one of the things that my unit addressed early on, we saw that the state of Florida rolled out these mobile testing sites. I'm sure if you've watched the news, you've seen at the beginning of when we all started staying home, when we all started social distancing, we had the opportunity for these various mobile testing sites. And initially in Broward, the mobile testing sites, you had to drive to the mobile testing site in your car. Eventually, Broward did put up some walk-up testing sites for individuals who were, let's say, transportation disadvantaged. But we were communicating with key health officials throughout the state of, we've been communicating with key health officials throughout the state of Florida and key community leaders throughout the state of Florida to advocate for accessible testing for individuals with disabilities, and this may also impact the elderly, for individuals with disabilities who, for whatever reason, maybe their complex care needs, may not be able to get into a car and travel to the site. We started this initiative in April. In May, Broward County, this is through the Broward County Department of Health. It's not through my organization, but Broward County rolled out a site and or testing for individuals with disabilities and expanded their testing program. And you can call their call center if you cannot go to a testing site and you need to have tests. And you can arrange for potentially to have a test in your home if you meet their eligibility requirements. And this is something that impacts people with disabilities and seniors.
Excellent. And what about people who are hospitalized or in nursing homes? I've heard a lot lately about limitations for visitors. Have you
Right.
been working on any of those type of issues?
We are watching this issue. This is a very, very important issue because we have to consider the health of everyone. It's not an issue that just impacts everyone. So the state of Connecticut started off with an Office of Civil Rights complaint that we reviewed, and basically what that provides, and this is primarily at this point, it's related to hospitals. That's not to say that it couldn't be addressed in a nursing home facility, but for right now, it's specifically related to hospitals. But if you have an individual, such as an elderly individual with communication needs or impairments, or an individual with intellectual disabilities who can't communicate and they need their family member or their caregiver, they have the caregivers, on behalf of the person with the disability, they have the right to ask the hospital to provide, to do an individualized assessment. The idea is that if the person with a disability while they're in the hospital requires the support of their disability support person there so that they can communicate their needs and help ensure that they have equal access to medical care, then the hospital in those instances should provide a reasonable accommodation to the visitation policy. Keep in mind, though, the person, the disability support person will be screened, according to the hospital's, screening policy, or possibly temperature, whatever that is, temperature checked, asked if they've been on an airplane and things like that. So it is a serious review. But the idea is the family member or the caregiver that's there to support the person with the disability, they're a disability support person. They're not a hospital visitor, and the hospitals need to do an individualized assessment on their visitation policies in these circumstances.
Disability support person, that's a specific designation, that's a legal designation, or could
something I've come up with them. That's the term I'm using. So yes,
okay.
Okay. But I that's the term I'm using, is disability support person. In this, I mean, it is a term that is used in when referring to caregivers. It is a term, but yes, I would like to see it as a legal term, an official legal term.
So if I'm taking care of my aunt who's in the hospital, I'm able to call Disability Rights Florida and ask for that assistance on her behalf?
Well, what we would do is if the aunt called, let's say you called on behalf of your aunt, you could call us on behalf of your aunt and say, I need to be at my aunt's bedside. She can't communicate. Her health is deteriorating. I've asked the hospital if they would, provide a reasonable accommodation because my aunt has a disability. What we would do, we would start off with, providing you with technical support as to what to say and what to say to the hospital. If your aunt was able to, every case is reviewed individually, but if your aunt was able to retain us, we might look at her case and maybe write a letter to the general counsel on behalf of the hospital. But I have to tell you, in circumstances, when the hospital is there to provide care, and I think when in these situations where the caregiver is needed for the person with disability, I'm optimistic that the hospital will provide the reasonable accommodation.
That's great. That's such great information, especially now when people are home and scared and wondering how to get to their loved ones. You have a lot of great information, and I'm familiar with Disability Rights Florida. They do some amazing work, and certainly not 15 minutes with you is certainly not enough. I really appreciate your time, and we appreciate the efforts that Disability Rights Florida puts forward on behalf of the disabled and others in the community. I want to also remind everyone that Coast to Coast Legal Aid is working remotely. Our staff is available. If you need assistance with anything, you can call us at 954-736-2400. Please like us and follow us on Facebook. And we appreciate Jen and all the work that she does and we'll see you soon. Thank you. Stay
Thank
well.
you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.